It is not every day that you get someone that is as talented and hardworking in the music industry, just in the entertainment industry as we have today. We have the legendary Chris Jericho of Fozzy with us. Chris, how's it going, man?
Awesome, man. First night of the tour here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and of course the day that Spotlight came out. So it's a big day for us here in Fozzy land.
You know, I've been listening off and on throughout the day to the new single Spotlight. I really do love it. And here's the thing about you guys and the music that Fozzy puts out as a whole. Somehow it's different from everything that's out there, but still it has its roots really deep into the music that we all know and love. Kind of tell us, where's the inspiration behind Fozzy and, you know, the music that you guys create?
I mean, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, it's a weird situation where I guess about 5 years ago, Fozzy became a radio band. Something we never really expected, but, you know, with 6 consecutive top 10 modern rock radio hits in a row, we kind of have a little bit of a niche carved out for us when it comes to radio songs. And that gives you a little bit of extra freedom to try things a little bit differently. And, you know, we all grew up with some of the greatest bands of all time, whether it's the Beatles or the Stones, or if it's Zeppelin, or if it's Guns N' Roses or U2, you know, even Metallica. They try different styles. I mean, one of my biggest influences in life is David Bowie. He was always changing his style and changing his sound, but essentially it was still Bowie in the foundation. And I think that's something that we take great pride in with Fozzy, is that we can try things a little bit differently and try some different sounds and some different, you know, melodies and that sort of thing. But it's still Fozzy deep down inside. And I think that's one of the reasons why the band continues to grow and continues to get such great support from radio, because it is something that, like you said, you can listen to and be familiar with, but it's not something that's stock, shall we say, something you're going to hear from other people.
You know, here's the thing, Fozzy coming back to Fargo, we just dove right into it. We should maybe talk about why we got the legendary Chris Jericho on. He's coming to town. Him and the rest of Fozzy going to be here October 30th, Sanctuary Event Center. Here's the deal, Chris. The last time that you guys were in Fargo was right around 2018, I believe. So we're talking a whole different atmosphere in the climate of this country and the touring and all that before that. So what can fans kind of expect if they come out to the show, especially with new music with like Spotlight out there? If fans haven't seen you since 2018, what can fans kind of expect at the show?
It's the same vibe. I mean, people that know Fozzy know it's a rock and roll party. It's a rock and roll vibe. And I know Fargo's a great rock and roll city. I used to go to Fargo from Winnipeg to see bands. And that stands out the most is, I think, 1990. It was Kiss, Slaughter, and Faster Pussycat. I think it was like some kind of a raceway, and it was super muddy because it rained. And I was down, you know, in the pit, so to speak. And after the show was done, I drove home. I got home. I heard Fargo to Winnipeg. And I remember Paul yelling, "Go, go!" And I got home, and my shoes that my mom had bought me had turned from white to black from all the mud. And I tried to walk outside on the hose, and I went to woke me up about 3 hours later just screaming, "What did you do to your shoes? What did you do?" So that's what I think of when I think of Rock Fargo.
You know, here's the thing. You talk about the mud. I'm thinking you were out at our Speedway, our Red River Valley Fairgrounds for that. The nice thing is where you guys are going to be here is a pretty cool venue. Sanctuary Event Center. I believe you've been there before. I believe that's where the last show was at. Old church turned into an awesome music venue. It's intimate. It sounds great. There's not a bad seat in the house. So if you're going to go to one show this year and you're a fan of Chris Jericho and Fozzy, this is the one to go to. Tell us a little bit about, you guys have some other people on this tour. Tell us a little bit about the supports on this one as well. Or how do you guys kind of pick who ends up being on your tour with you?
Well, it's 7 Day Slumber and Nocturnal Affair. See, what we do is we are kind of a self rock and roll package party. So when we go out on tour, we don't go looking for, you know, bands that you know have been touring a lot. We try and find bands and great bands that fit the vibe of what Fozzy is, which, like I said, it's rock and roll party, man. So we put a lot of time and effort into the bands that we tour with, because we want people to come early and stay late, you know. And if you want to come just to see Fozzy, that's fine as well, but a lot of people want to come and hear the other bands. So we want to take out, like I said, bands that, if it was a ska band or a metal band, it probably wouldn't fit the Fozzy vibe. So we put a lot of time to make sure that when people come, like I said, that they get a chance to enjoy the gig from the beginning to the end and everything in between. So, so that's another thing that we love about going on tour, headlining. We don't really like opening for anybody. We kind of do it all ourselves, and we have been for years. So that's part of it, is just picking the right bands to back us up, that are going to have the same, fun, just rock and roll, down and dirty vibe that we have. And that makes it just for a great night of rock and roll for everybody.
Chris, here's the cool thing about, Fozzy as a whole. Like you said, you hit the nail right on the head. There were a lot of people who knew about you guys, circa before 2016, 17, somewhere in there. But then all of a sudden, 5-6 years ago, you guys become a radio band. You get hits like Judas, Sandpaper, those kind of songs become a hit. How has that changed you guys at all? Has that changed kind of your stage presence or anything? Has it maybe gotten to everyone in the band's head? Tell us a little bit about that.
No, it doesn't change your stage presence at all, because we've always been what we are. Like I said, very energetic, electric band. But I think what it's done is we never realized how important rock radio is across the entire country. I mean, Fargo included, until really getting on radio. And that really helps your band to grow, takes things to a completely different level. And something that I never really realized. You would think, if you're not in the know, you think, radio, what does it matter? Radio doesn't even have presence in New York City or whatever it may be. But radio is everything, especially, in the middle America, the Midwest, up in Fargo, North Dakota, and South Dakota, and Idaho, Nebraska, those types of places. Really important. And, to be included in that level of success at radio, it definitely has made a huge difference in the impact of our band, in the size of our band, the size of our fan base as well.
The cool thing, Chris, everyone, it seems like it doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are, at least knows who Chris Jericho is. I love that as you guys get more popular, Fozzy becomes more popular. I love that as well. So people know you, might not know you from Fozzy. They might know you from your wrestling career. They might know you from podcasting. They might just know you from movies and stuff as you go. And I want to know, so like you also have a new movie coming out this year. You're working on new music with Fozzy as well. And obviously wrestling superstar. If you had to, just sit down and say, hey, I can only be famous for one thing. It's rock music, it's acting, it's wrestling. What would you personally pick?
It's funny because I ask this question quite often, and the answer is I don't have to pick, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be in a rock band and I wanted to be a wrestler. That's kind of what my goals in life. And then here we are all these years later. I'm doing both at, very high degrees, very high levels, so you don't have to choose. And that's one good thing about the way I kind of structured my life and my career, is that, I do Fozzy until the tour cycle is done, as we call it. And in the meantime, I'm still doing AEW basically on a weekly basis. And, we've got the podcast, we've got the cruise, and the books, and the other projects that come along. So I'm just able to kind of to do all of that, because I kind of structured my life that way. I never had to worry about somebody being my boss, because I'm my own boss.
I love that as an answer. I really do, because, most people, or a lot of people, I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people would look back and go, this guy's so successful. He's been lucky. He's been able to do all this. But really, they don't see the hard work that you put into this. I mean, maybe they do, but they don't, realize that there's a ton of hard work that goes into everything that you do. And, you've got to grow there to be that. So another thing that I wanted to ask you, especially, you're talking about as a kid, you wanted to be in a rock band, you wanted to wrestle, you wanted to do all that. What is something, if you could go tell, 16, 15, 13, whatever age it is, Chris Jericho, just a piece of advice, what is it? What is the one piece of advice that you'd like to go back and tell him?
I mean, I think just kind of do what you're doing. Follow your dreams and follow your goals, and don't listen to people when they tell you can't do it, which I never did. I mean, you think people jumped on board when I said I wanted to be a wrestler back in 1990 in small town Canada, or when I wanted to start a rock and roll band? It's like people always kind of look down when you have these kind of grandiose dreams and hopes and thoughts. But just stick to them, man. I mean, if you can really make something happen and you have the ability to do it, just do it and don't listen to what anybody else says.
Love it. I really do. Hey, Chris, we're talking about Fozzy here. You guys are coming to Fargo October 30th, Sanctuary Event Center, 21-plus show, cool venue. They're going to be rocking all the hits, plus some new music as well, like that new single, Spotlight. Here's the deal, Chris. You've got a new single out, so that always makes fans drool at the mouth a little bit for a new album. You guys just released something here in 2022. Can fans expect a new album? Is there stuff in the works? What's going on with Fozzy right now?
Well, I mean, like you said, we just released our new song today, so that's what's going on. And I think, other than that, I think the concept of doing a full album is almost getting obsolete. I think that the idea is to continue just to do a new song every few months and just keep the constant content going and give each a chance. In our last record, Boombox, we had top 10 singles and 3 songs that went over great, and then the other 6 songs kind of disappeared into the ether, and I don't think we want to do that anymore. So I think what you can be looking on is just probably 6 new songs a year, every year, and then we kind of take care of that 2-year gap when you're working on a full-length record, just doing material that you can support and release on radio and play live always. I think that's the way we kind of want to continue things.
Very cool. So you're someone who, you guys have been a band since 1999. At least that's what the internet tells us. So you've kind of seen the era of like kind of the end of tape cassette all the way up now until where we have digital music and vinyl's popular again. Do you think that, like you said, you think in this day it doesn't really make sense to put out a full album? Maybe it's just a singles thing. Do you think anymore, does digital music help you as a band in the long run? Or are you still someone who thinks, we need to get the physical copies into fans' hands?
I've never felt that. I mean, you gotta ride the wave, you gotta be ahead of the curve. And it's just not, prudent to have physical copies in this day and age. And what's the physical copies even of? It's great to have the vinyls for fans who want to, hold those records in their hands and get them. I'm a big fan of that. But in this day and age, nobody really has anything physical. Books and movies and music, it's all on your phone. And that's kind of the way of the world right now. And to kind of want physical copies, you're almost a dinosaur at this point in time. You could probably try and get your 8-track cassettes reinvigorated as well. So I don't have a problem with the way the world is now. I loved buying records when I was a kid and waiting for that record to come out. Things have kind of changed in that way, and it's more about, like I said, the convenience and the short attention spans. And I think right now on TikTok, our new song, which is probably a 15-second version of it, is like blowing through the roof. They haven't even heard the whole song. They don't even want to. Like 15 seconds is enough. We like this 30, 15-second clip, and we'll listen to that. So it's just kind of how the world is moving and the way the way people can consume music. And, I'm cool with that. I'd rather be ahead of the curve than fighting behind it.
Chris, I got to ask you, just because you guys obviously tour as a band and stuff and you're doing things, what kind of music influences you outside of Fozzy? What are you listening to right now? What is the music that Chris Jericho listens to?
I mean, we've got a pretty wide palette. I love, newer bands. I love the Struts. I love Greta Van Fleet. I love Avenged Sevenfold. Those types of bands falling into Reverse. But I'm still a big fan of Maiden and Metallica and Scorpion. I love the Stones. I think the new Stones record is probably the best Stones record since the 80s, and that's inspiring. So, there's always a wide rock and roll palette that I have that I enjoy listening to. You kind of just go back to your favorites, but I'm still always listening to new stuff as well.
Love hearing that. Hey, Chris, one last thing, and this is for everybody in the Fargo, Moorhead. I know we've got listeners up in Winnipeg. I know we get messages all the time. I love hearing that. Question for everyone out there that I think they're asking, if there's some people maybe on the fence about going to the show October 30th, Sanctuary Event Center, 21 plus show. They're like, well, I got this going on, whatever it be. What is a reason that they should come and see Fozzy at the Sanctuary Event Center?
Dude, I think we've been talking for the last 20 minutes is what the reason is. If you want to see a good rock and roll show and come hang out and sing, drink some beer, then we're there for you. If you want to sit home and do your homework, well, then you can do that too. But if you want to come rock out with Fozzy, find us on October 30th.
Love it. Chris, thank you for the time. We look forward to seeing you in just a couple weeks here.
Looking forward to it, dude. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's Chris Jericho. They're coming to Fargo, North Dakota, Sanctuary Event Center, October 30th. Get all the details on the show at Q105.1Rocks.com.